The film begins in the Ojai region of North America, showing some prominent individuals who were facing difficulties due to crops not growing well and a shortage of oil. They decide to bury a pipe in the ground and pray for a miracle. After a few days, oil starts gushing out, bringing prosperity. Over the years, the people in North America become wealthy. Later, a soldier named Ernest becomes the main character, meeting an officer who takes him to a house where he reunites with his uncle and brother. After some conversation, the uncle reveals that Ernest has been called for a special job, as he himself is working honestly in the area. Uncle suggests it's better because here you'll work as a driver, and you'll become the driver for a girl named Molly. Keep a close eye on her, she belongs to the wealthiest family in the area. Later, on TV, news of some people's deaths is shown, and Molly, a private detective, instructs a detective to find out how they died. The detective agrees as a substantial reward is offered. Molly leaves the scene, and now she meets Ernest, who works as a driver for her. Amid their conversations, during a festival program, Molly and others give Ernest a hat as a gift. He then accompanies her to his home, where Ernest meets his sick mother. At night, while having dinner, Molly asks Ernest when he arrived and why he came here. Ernest explains that he came to his uncle, who gave him the job of being a driver for Molly. Molly praises his uncle, stating that he is a good person. After having some drinks, they continue talking, and Ernest compliments Molly, saying she is very beautiful. The next day, during another festival program, Molly's sister and her sister's husband, named Bill, are present. Bill's two sisters also praise the couple, revealing that Ernest and Molly like each other. Later, when they are alone, Ernest proposes to Molly, asking if she would marry him. She says yes, and the next day, they both get married according to their respective traditions. Both of them were very happy, and seeing them, even the uncle and Molly's sister, who was sick, appeared quite content. The uncle reassures her that she shouldn't worry, nothing will happen to her. However, the poor man's health deteriorates so much that he passes away just a year later, leaving his mom and sisters in great sorrow. A little while later, Ernest meets the uncle and informs him that, according to the will, all of Molly's sister's wealth will now go to her husband Bill. However, if we eliminate him and he doesn't survive, then Molly will inherit all the wealth. Clearly, after his death, you will have to eliminate everyone, meaning Molly, her sister, Bill, and his sisters, so that you become the sole heir to the entire estate. Hearing this, Ernest is surprised but rejects the idea, saying that he cannot agree to such a plan for now. However, if the need arises, they will consider it. In the meantime, he cannot risk any harm, especially because he is about to become a father, as his wife is pregnant. Ernest's words hint at his dangerous intentions. After her sister's funeral, Molly takes care of her mom. Her mom expresses dissatisfaction, stating that since the arrival of white people, troubles have increased, and people are being killed. Molly doesn't like hearing these things and leaves. Ernest sends his brother with Molly's sister to the city for a party, but the next day, both Ernest and Molly are summoned. Upon arriving, they discover Molly's sister's dead body, brutally murdered. Distraught, Molly breaks down, and Ernest tries to console her. The next day, a meeting of influential people takes place where it's revealed that since the expansion of their business, white people have come, and their increasing numbers pose a threat. They announce a reward of $1,000 to anyone who identifies the killer of their people. The uncle promptly raises it to $2,000, bringing satisfaction to all the uncles. Now, after Molly and her sister's deaths, Ernest meets Molly and sees her deeply saddened. Another man has died, and the private detective informs Molly and Ernest that it could be possible that your uncle, who married your first sister and might have married the second sister as well, could be involved in her death. I'm investigating to find out the truth. Molly is distressed upon hearing this, and when she goes to Ernest's uncle, she learns that the private detective suspects her and advises her not to worry as he lacks concrete evidence. After discussing the matter with Ernest's uncle, Ernest consoles Molly, assuring her that he will handle the situation and that he will not let anything happen to her. Despite Ernest's reassurance, Molly is still grieving. Later, they meet the doctor treating Molly for diabetes, and they find out that she is expecting their second child. The next day, Ernest is called to meet the uncle, who questions him about the lack of progress in their plans. Ernest reassures him that he will take care of everything and reveals that Molly is pregnant again. The uncle insists that Ernest should fulfill the purpose for which he was brought into their lives, to carry out the plan of eliminating Molly, her wife, and others. When Ernest responds that he is happy with Molly and doesn't want her to be harmed, his uncle gets angry. Despite saying, "Okay, that's good to hear," he then proceeds to physically assault Ernest, emphasizing that their purpose must be accomplished no matter what. A few days later, someone attacks Molly's private detective, leading her uncle and Ernest to meet his brother, who is a bomb dealer. The brother claims that the attacker could be of help in their plan. They discover that this person is a skilled bomb maker involved in various bombings and bank heists. Meanwhile, doctors come to treat Molly for diabetes, but she refuses treatment from Ernest, citing distrust due to the previous medical care her sister received from him. Ernest gets angry. He goes out, gets insulin and medicines from the doctor, and returns, expressing his frustration. He tells Molly that he has been managing everything alone, taking care of the house and the children since she fell ill. He expresses his love for her and apologizes for his earlier outburst. Molly forgives him, and he administers the insulin injection. The next day, the officer whom Ernest had met earlier falls sick. Molly's uncle arranges for the doctor to treat him. After the treatment, the doctor informs Molly's uncle that upon the officer's death, all the property will go to him, as the officer has no one else in this world. Ernest and Molly learn that the officer was Molly's first husband, and her uncle tells them that now they must also deal with him. The uncle assigns Ernest the task of eliminating the officer, along with Bill and his sister. Ernest agrees, and they plan to involve bomb dealers to accomplish this. Molly's mother's health deteriorates, and despite medical treatment, she passes away. A few days later, Ernest and Molly visit the uncle's house. He puts on an act of sympathy, revealing that the officer was Molly's first husband. He informs them that he has hired a detective to find the killer. Molly mentions that she had also hired a private detective for the same purpose, but someone killed him too. Here we find out that the detective was not killed by someone else but was murdered by Ernest and his brothers. Molly's uncle pretends to show fake sympathy and suggests to Ernest that he should hire a better detective. Ernest sarcastically responds, and then he reveals that he and Molly are expecting their third child. This news brings joy to both families, but Molly's uncle doesn't share the same happiness. He later meets the bomb dealer and asks if they can create a very large bomb, as they need to eliminate a dangerous person. The bomb dealer assures him of his capabilities. Ernest, with the help of the bomb dealer, executes the plan by eliminating the officer first. The bomb dealer establishes a friendship between the officer and Ernest, leading to an opportunity for Ernest to shoot and kill the officer. Now, Ernest and Molly welcome their third child, a daughter, bringing happiness to their lives. The bomb dealer delivers on his promise, creating a big bomb. Ernest triggers a fake encounter, getting the officer drunk, and then shoots and kills him. Afterward, Ernest and Molly's third child is born, a girl, making them very happy. Many family members gather to celebrate, including Molly's sister and her husband, Bill, who come to visit. One night, as Ernest and Molly are sleeping, a sudden explosion occurs. They quickly rush downstairs to check and discover that a massive blast has destroyed Bill's house, resulting in the deaths of Bill and his sister. Upon learning about the tragic death of Bill and his sister, Ernest shares the news with Molly, who breaks down in tears. The entire family has now been lost. After the funeral, Molly discusses the rising violence and deaths in their city with the local president. Concerned about the situation, she seeks help and a detective from the president. Molly returns with some of her people to deal with the crisis, while Uncle Anar hands Ernest a small bottle containing slow poison. He mentions that this poison will make Molly gradually weak but won't cause her immediate death. Both doctors, who were working for Uncle Anar, have given slow poison to Molly's sister and mother as well. Anar expresses his anger towards Ernest, suggesting that he wants to see Molly suffer, and implies that Ernest will become rich as a result. Following Uncle Anar's instructions, Ernest consistently administers the slow poison to Molly. A few days later, an agent arrives at Ernest's house, sent by the president, informing him that Molly sought help from the government. The agent reveals that the agency also received Molly's request, and now they are here to investigate. However, Ernest refuses to let the agent meet Molly, stating that she is not well. The agent accepts this and promises to return after a week. The agent begins inquiries, and Ernest shares the information with Uncle Anar about the FBI and the agency being involved. He warns that they must be careful to avoid getting caught. Agent Oz conducts meetings with people, learning that Uncle Anar is orchestrating all the killings. However, the locals praise Uncle Anar, stating that he is doing a good job and even has a reward for catching the murderer. The agent questions the doctors associated with Uncle Anar and visits Uncle Anar himself. Uncle Anar pretends to be troubled and tells the agent that he is also disturbed by the situation. He warns the agent not to take Ernest's name, as both of them could be in danger if Ernest goes to jail. Uncle Anar assures that he will arrange Ernest's release if he stays outside. Later, Agent Oz, suspicious of Uncle Anar, seeks information from a man who tells him that Molly's sister came with Anjay's brother, and soon after, Anj died. The man suggests that Ernest might be connected to these deaths. Agent Oz begins to consider the possibility that Ernest is somehow involved in the deaths. Ernest, unaware of the agent's suspicion, continues giving slow poison to Molly along with insulin, maintaining her deteriorating health. As Agent Oz observes Ernest from a distance, he notices that Ernest adds a bit of slow poison to his own drink. However, it doesn't affect him, leading Agent Oz to realize that Molly's deteriorating health might be due to the slow poison given by Ernest, not some mysterious murderer. He was contemplating whether to reveal the entire truth to the FBI, and the next day, when he was sitting somewhere, agents and their colleagues apprehended Ernest. They brought him in for questioning, and during the interrogation, Ernest was asked if he had taken anyone's life. He replied that he hadn't, but his wife's condition was very critical, and she needed help. Officers also arrested the drug dealer. When the agents arrived at Ernest's house, they found Molly in a terrible state, extremely ill. They immediately rushed her to the hospital, where her treatment began. An FBI agent named SCP comes for the interrogation, informing Ernest that his wife has been taken to the hospital due to her deteriorating condition. SCP emphasizes that Ernest is now responsible for her and demands the truth about who instructed him to carry out these actions. Ernest, under pressure, confesses that he did everything on his uncle's orders. Based on Ernest's statement, Uncle Anar is arrested. Molly's health gradually improves during her treatment, and after several days of investigation, she makes a full recovery. Ernest is presented in court, and amid a courtroom clash between two lawyers, the judge decides to defer the hearing. Following this, Ernest is sent to meet his lawyer and Uncle Anar's associates. The lawyer warns Ernest that if he reveals anything about Uncle Anar, they will both end up in jail. Meanwhile, Molly's recovery progresses, and when she is completely well, Ernest is brought back to court. The judge allows some time for the inquiry, and people in the courtroom react strongly, leading to a delay in the hearing. The judge decides to resume the proceedings after a few days, and Ernest is sent to Uncle Anar's associates, who threaten him with dire consequences if he exposes Uncle Anar. Ernest says he hasn't disclosed anything about them yet. The lawyer warns him that they could resort to violence to extract the truth, but even then, he shouldn't reveal anything. They assure him they'll try their best to protect him, emphasizing not to mention Uncle's name. Ernest's family pleads for mercy, stating that they want him to save Uncle Anar. Under this pressure, Ernest breaks and reveals Uncle Anar's involvement. As the court proceedings continue, Ernest faces inquiries about the murders. Despite resisting initially, he ultimately admits to following Uncle Anar's orders, leading to Uncle Anar's arrest. However, tragedy strikes when Ernest's daughter dies due to illness while he is in jail. Devastated, he attends his daughter's funeral, where Molly witnesses his shattered state. Ernest, feeling remorseful, meets Uncle Anar and confesses his guilt, saying that the pursuit of money blinded him. Uncle Anar, disowning him, states that now he can't be saved. In court, Ernest is questioned extensively about his actions, and he reveals names of accomplices and details of the conspiracy. Molly confronts him, asking if he ever genuinely loved her. Ernest admits that it was a lie and that he pursued her only for money. Later, FBI agents bring Ernest and Molly together, where Ernest seeks forgiveness. Initially angry, Molly eventually questions if he contaminated her insulin, to which he lies. Molly, realizing the deception, leaves, convinced he will never change. Now, several years later, a radio show reveals the resolution of the case. Ernest and Uncle Anar faced initial imprisonment but were later released on parole for rehabilitation. Facing public protests due to Uncle Anar's age, he eventually passed away at the age of 87, avoiding further legal consequences. The doctors and Ernest's brother were also released due to lack of evidence. Upon completing his sentence, Ernest received a divorce from Molly. Molly remarried but succumbed to diabetes at the age of 50. Her family, witnessing her suffering, chose to bury her alongside Ernest's family, symbolizing the end of the differences. The story concludes with a festival program where the white ostrich community joyfully dances, signifying unity after the turbulent events. The film's narrative comes to a close, emphasizing the resolution and unity within the community. I hope you've enjoyed the movie recap. Please like, share, and subscribe for more real recaps.